Hello, Ignite Seattle. If you are not sure if you have a reserved seat or if you don't know what your reserved seat is, come see us downstairs at the door and we will check what that reserved seat is for you. We're going to give away any unclaimed reserved seats in about 10 to 15 minutes shortly before the show starts. So if you do have a reserved seat, come check with us downstairs. We can tell you what your seat is.
Yo. Awesome. Hi. Yo, 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 yo. What up, Seattle? Woo! Hello. Oh my gosh. It's so good to see you guys. I'm Maurice. I'm your host. And my first order of business is booze. You see, there are these 2 empty seats up front. And I have 2 drink tickets for anyone who would like to sit up front up here. Anyone? Anyone? Oh yeah, just run there. Just get up here. All right. Woo! Excellent. All right. One more? All right, get in here. Yeah, we got tickets. Get in here. Sweet. Awesome. Get drinks. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. Oh, wow. So for the record, that happens every single Ignite. So the next time, be ready. All right, you can get some free drink tickets. All right. I'm feeling awesome tonight, y'all. I'm looking around and I'm seeing some new faces and some familiar faces. Raise your hand if you have been to an Ignite before. Raise your hands up high. Hello, it's so good to see you all again. Yay. Y'all look fantastic. Now let's put our hands down and let's welcome the newest members of our community. If you have never been to an Ignite before and this is your first Ignite, raise your hands up high. Woo! Ha! You have been deceived. This is not a good show. This is a great show. You are gonna have such a good time. Ignite is unlike any event you've ever been to before. And I'm Maurice, I'm your host, and my job is to guide you through the night, tell you what it's all about so you know what's in store. Because we can get a little crazy here. But before we get started, there's one thing I want y'all to do. Take a photo of this slide right now. Take out your phones and take a photo of it. And the reason is because you're gonna see these 10 fantastic, really interesting talks. And you're gonna wanna learn more. You might wanna know speaker info, you might wanna get some more resources, and you're not gonna see them in the speaker slides. They're all gonna be here. All right, so take a photo, and I'll wait for y'all to put them down. Awesome. Awesome, cool. Looks like everyone's gotten their photo, all good? All right, let's get started. Ignite is an open submission public speaking event. What that means is that anyone up here can talk about anything they want. This night, you guys gave us a bunch of submissions, and we got 10, we chose 10 that we think you're gonna love. I'm Maurice, and I'm your host, and fun fact about me, I love process. So tonight, I'm gonna give you a behind-the-scenes peek into how we choose the talks. And it includes one of my favorite things in the world, a decision matrix. Look at that beauty. So we want an even distribution of talks from feely, thinky, light, and heavy. Because we want you to laugh, we want you to cry, we want you to reflect, and we want to blow your mind. So let's take a look at some of the talks. We have gynecologist, foster parenting, eulogies, and artichokes. It's not Mad Libs, it's Ignite. Our goal is to be the opposite of your social feed. We don't want to show you more of the stuff you already like. We want to show you stuff that's new and unexpected. And you're not going to get that anywhere else, just here. Because the secret sauce is in our Ignite format. Here's how it works. Speakers have exactly 5 minutes on stage. And you hold them to it because their slides are an auto advance. They go every 15 seconds. It is really hard to do, it takes a lot of practice, and these are the superstars who stepped up to do it. Let's give them a hand. These people have worked so hard all month because they want to tell you a story, and oh no, my slide, it got all messed up. Ignite, what do we do when that happens? That's right, we cheer them on. I really love this crowd. Y'all are super supportive. And that's fantastic, because that means anyone can come on the stage and feel awesome. I felt it. When I did my Ignite talk, it was my first time on stage, and I just got dumped. This is an actual photo. I know, right? So rude. And I took it really personally. I was like, oh my God, I suck, so my talk is gonna suck. They're gonna hate me. I did it, and I ended up having a really awesome time. Because you guys, this room, y'all cheered me on and you encouraged me. And I thought, maybe I don't suck. Maybe I can host. Never forget that your applause is transformative. If you have friends who want to applaud online, they can do so on our live stream. My mom is watching me right now from the Philippines. I hope she hasn't fallen asleep yet. Let's talk tactics. Tonight, we're going to start with 5 talks. You're going to feel feels, you're going to think thinks, then we're going to take a break so you can drink drinks. Then you're going to come back and we're going to do it all over again, so you might need another drink. Come to the after party at the W. Guys, y'all really should come. Ignite folks are super interesting, super fun, and they love to make friends. I'll see you there. Now, not to brag, but this group, we're kind of a big deal. Because there are Ignites events just like this one all over the world. But it all started here. Seattle was the first. Y'all started it, and y'all kept it going. That's because you guys are curious, interested, open-minded people who want to expand your world. That's really freaking cool. Like, how many of you guys who here has actually cooked with an artichoke? Okay, that's way more people than I expected, but it was a minority, so my point stands. Our mission is to, show people new ideas, diverse, challenging ideas, to people like you. We've been doing it for 18 years, and we'll happily do it for 18 more. This is the team who works on it. Let's give them a round of applause for all the work they do. I also want to thank our sponsor, Geocaching. They have an Adventure Lab app. It's a really cool way to explore new places using outdoor scavenger hunts. It's super fun, super free, super family friendly. Give it a try. Okay, that's my talk. Are you guys ready to get the show on the road? You ready to show? Yeah? Are you ready? Are you ready? Awesome. Let's go. We're gonna kick off our night with one of my favorite talks I've ever heard in Ignite. It's called Why I Wish I'd Met My Mom's Gynecologist. Kicking us off is Suzanne. Suzanne. Everyone, let's welcome Suzanne.
I was 22. I had my first serious boyfriend and a serious amount of hair. My mom started interrogating him. Where were you born? What hospital? I didn't know why she was being so weird, but she had a secret. She kept that secret for another 20 years. My mom, Sonia, a harpist, and my dad, Peter, a clarinetist, met in 1960 at work in the New York Philharmonic. In case you're wondering, my musical talent is karaoke. Sonia and Peter got divorced when I was 3, and my sister Lori was 1.5. Sonia, Lori, and I moved on down from our deluxe apartment in the sky in New York City and moved in with our grandparents in Peoria, Illinois. I never saw my dad again, unless the New York Philharmonic happened to be on TV. And all I really remember about him are his shoes. I painted this memory once, which is the first and last time I ever painted. I think it's good. Lori and I used to fight a lot, and I was pretty sure that one of us was adopted. One time, just to get me in trouble, Lori carved the words, "Lori is a asshole," on her own bedroom door. I was 19, headed to New York City for a girls' weekend. My mom said, while you're in New York, why don't you look up Dr. Nash, the OB-GYN who delivered you? I'm sure he would love to meet you. I was like, Okay, Mom, oh, whatever. I did not go hang out with my mom's gynecologist. I was 42. My mom was dying of cancer. She told me her big secret. Things in the bedroom were not working out with Peter, but my mom really wanted to have a baby. So she went to the OB, Dr. Nash, who told her about a new process. He said, "You want to get pregnant? Come back on Tuesday." On Tuesday, he entered the exam room with a medical-grade turkey baster and a vial of fresh semen and proceeded with what we now call artificial insemination. She got pregnant and had me. For that reason, my mom always suspected that Dr. Nash might be my biological father. I Googled Dr. Nash, only found his obituary, tracked down some of his partners from that time, and learned as much as I could. The doctors were the donors. For example, the residents in OBGYN who were paid $35 a week to work were paid $50 for a fresh sperm sample delivered to an office on the day an insemination was scheduled. Some doctors donated a lot, and a lot of babies were born at this time. These New York babies are unknowingly half-siblings, and no records were kept. And that's why my mom was interrogating my boyfriend. Were you born in New York? What hospital? She was just trying to make sure that I was not about to marry a half-brother and give her inbred grandchildren. We're good, you guys, we're good. So I joined the donor sibling registry to see if I could find some half-siblings. I swabbed my cheek for DNA and mailed it to all the popular websites. I waited and forgot my password and waited some more. But a few years ago, I got a notification. I matched with a half-sister, Arlene. She had no idea she was conceived by insemination. She had just done the DNA test for fun, so she was pretty surprised. We decided to meet for sushi. She arrived at the table, immediately spilled her whole water, and never stopped talking. We closed down the place. My family was there too, and they were like, "Yeah, you guys are definitely related." We took this picture that day. Aw, do we kind of have the same smile and sparkling eyes? Together, we went back to the internet to see if we could figure out who is our donor. We took a closer look at Dr. Nash's obituary. Aha. He went to med school, 1953. That's where and when Arlene was conceived. He was a doctor at Lenox Hill, 1969, where and when I was. Warm smile, sparkling eyes, and 2 adult daughters. You guys, I called the daughters. Hi, I don't need a kidney or anything from you guys, but I think we might be half-sisters. Can we meet? They did not know that their dad was donating sperm at work, but they agreed to meet us. We met for brunch, where we all spilled a lot of water and talked until the restaurant was closed. They sent in their cheek swabs to confirm the theory, and now I have 3 new sisters, and none of them is an asshole.
That was so good. I love that talk. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for kicking us off really strong. It's so good. It has comedy, it's got drama, it's got all the juicy bits, the miracle of life. So good. All right, our next talk is called The Unhinged Joy of Marathon Pacing. Who here has ever run a marathon? Raise your hand. That's really cool. I've never done one. I'm not that hardcore. Then I heard about marathon pacing, and I thought, wow, okay, that's like extra hardcore. Let's find out some more. Everyone, let's welcome George.
All right, y'all, picture this. It's early on a weekend morning. The sun is coming up over the horizon. The air is cool and crisp. There's dew on the grass. It's peaceful. And all of a sudden, a whole bunch of runners show up with their weird colored shoes and their moisture-wicking shirts. They're talking about stuff like personal records and Boston qualifiers. They are here to run a race, a marathon race. And among this group of runners, there's a smaller group of runners with bright shirts and signs that are going to run this race for no medal, no finish time, no glory. All they get is a bunch of beat-up bodies and a pair of tired legs. Now, who in their right minds would run 26.2 miles for nothing? Well, these people are called marathon pacers, and at the risk of you judging my sanity, I'm one of them. Okay. Here's how it works. A marathon pacer shows up to a marathon holding a sign with a time on it, like 3 hours and 30 minutes. Their goal is to run the race at a steady speed, so when they cross the finish line, their stopwatch says the same time as the time on their sign. Pretty straightforward. Well, wait a minute. It's 2024. We have satellites, we have GPS, we have smartwatches, we have technology that tells us how fast we're running. Why do we need people to tell us how fast we're running? Let me tell you about the time I ran my first marathon. When you train for a marathon, you don't run the full distance until the race day. So I'd never run 26.2 miles. My longest run was 20 miles. So I'm standing there on race day, nervous as hell. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I could run 26.2 miles. Starting gun goes off. I'm running, I'm feeling pretty good, grabbing gels, grabbing water from the water stations. Mile 3, 5, 10, 15, doing pretty good. Mile 20. And I'm really tired. My brain was telling me, you gotta stop. My legs were burning, my lungs were heaving. I just wanted to give up. And then I saw out of the corner of my eye a bright shirt, a sign. It was a marathon pacer. The guy locked eyes with me, and I knew right then and there, all I had to do was keep up with him, and I would finish the race. So I did. I kept up with him 6 more miles. I crossed the finish line. I finished my first marathon, which is awesome. But I also learned something, which is a marathon pacer isn't just there to run a steady speed. They're there to help you finish the race. So fast forward a few years, I run a few more marathons. I want to volunteer and pace a marathon. Why not? So I'm at the starting line, I'm running the race, starting pretty good, encouraging people, hey, go water station ahead. Y'all are doing well. Mile 3, 5, 10, 15, mile 20. There's a woman named Susan near me, dark hair and 20s. And I could tell, reading her face, she wanted to give up. So I fell back with her. I started talking to her, telling her, you got this, you've trained for this. And I saw her face change from one of despair to one of determination. She kept up with us. She kept going. Half mile to go. She sees the finish line. She takes off. She crosses it. I catch up with her. She gives me a disgusting, sweaty hug. She crushed it. She finished her first marathon. Yeah, that's good. I paced another marathon last year, and this guy, Stuart, about 60 years old, cap, tank top, pretty lean, he was running with me, and I said, hey man, how many marathons have you run? And he said, 201. 201? Man, you don't need a pacer, you got this. You know what he said? He said, dude, it's a marathon. It's hard no matter how many times you've done it. Do you know what else is hard? No matter how many times you've gone through it? Losing someone. I lost my dad a couple years ago. First it was COVID, then he had a fall at home, then he got to the hospital and things just got worse and worse. And I didn't know how to get through that. I'd never lost a dad before. But I was fortunate. I had friends, I had family, I had a partner to help me pace through that, to give me a shoulder to cry on, to talk to me, to listen, to share their story, to make me do weird stuff like a hot sauce eating contest or jumping Green Lake on January 1st. All that stuff helped. Listen, I know most of y'all are not going to run marathons. I know even fewer will pace marathons, but I bet there is somebody in your life right now who you can pace through a hard time. So think about who that might be, and go pace them. Then let's go out for a run together and tell me your story. I'd love to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was wonderful. That was awesome. Our next talk, now we had 2 light talks, and now, like I said, we're gonna switch. We're gonna go heavy, really heavy, like death heavy. The next talk is called How to Knock 'Em Dead with a Killer Eulogy. Everyone, let's welcome Christopher.
According to the National Social Anxiety Center, the 2 greatest fears that we have in life are death and public speaking. Tonight, we're going to talk about both. Good news. So, I'm from 3 families from the Midwest. I have 22 aunts and uncles, not including their spouses or ex-spouses. I have enough cousins and friends to sway a presidential election. As the family writer, I've oftentimes been called to speak for the beloved dead. Death is coming for us all. You may be called upon to speak for the dead, maybe next week. I want to give you a few tips on how to do it well. First of all, step into the story. You're not a reporter. Neutrality serves no one. So step into it. The people around you are going to be the spouses, the children, the parents, the best friends of the dead. And you are speaking for all of us. So your emotional presence gives us something to hang on to. And then step back and speak for the whole community. Gather up as many stories as you can so that you're not just telling your connection, but all of our connection. Next, grief does well in a world that tatters and frays. Don't tell us about the generosity that someone has because they'd give you the shirt off of their back. Tell us how they were a little bit of an asshole. Your job is to show us their humanity. So if they had a bad finish in life and everybody is whispering about them, your job is to say it out loud. Tell us about when they were luminous. If their darkness was early in life, give us their redemption story. Tell us who they became in spite of their darkness. And spare us no blossoms. As soon as we die, our fingerprints begin to smudge and fade from this world. The best way to carry our dead with us is to tell vivid stories. Be detailed. When I'm writing, I follow the mantra, give it a smell. I want to tell you about my maternal grandmother, the one that I wasn't quite sure that I liked for the first 2 decades because she wasn't quite as sweet or entertaining as the others. And, she's the one who swore. Well, let me tell you, she also fried dozens of eggs in bacon grease alongside 10 pounds of shredded potatoes and homemade sticky buns at 2 a.m. on Christmas morning after midnight mass for a crowd of 25 at least. And that was a miracle. And it's a goddamn beautiful one. When my cousin Lane was trying to figure out how to memorialize his grandfather, my Uncle Don, he was asking me, Chris, I don't really know what to say. how do we do this? And we charted out all of the memories that we could, and he asked, how long is a eulogy supposed to last? And I said, well, Lane, as long as you're not wasting anybody's time, take as long as you want. However, here at Ignite Seattle, we get 5 minutes. And that has been mine.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. That was really, really good advice. Appreciate it. A typical hero's journey starts with an inciting incident. Some usual suspects are, death, a breakup, moving to a new city. But some of them are artichokes. And that's what this talk is about. Andres' talk is called My First Time Eating Artichokes Led Me to Live and Work on a Sustainable Farm. Everyone, let's welcome Andres.
My boyfriend and I had recently moved from Seattle to San Francisco in search of warmer weather and a cure to seasonal depression. We had been doing an extended media fast, so you can imagine the look in our eyes when we go to our typical grocery store and we encounter a scene straight out of a horror film. There is nothing on the shelves. There's people running up and down the aisles, grabbing whatever they can and throwing it in their carts. I'm thinking, worst case scenario, this is the end of the world. I'm thinking, we need calories. While people are throwing bags of toilet paper in their carts, we're throwing coconut oils, bottles of olive oils in our cart. Eventually, we reach the produce section, and of course, there's nothing left. The only thing there is a pile of artichokes. At this point, I've never eaten one of those in my life. So we're asking each other, what are these things? What do you do with them? Luckily, there's a nice lady that overhears us, and she says, those are artichokes. All you have to do is throw them in a pot of boiling water, throw some salt in them, and you're good to go. So we take them home. We prepare them as she told us, and they were okay, but to be honest, I haven't had an artichoke since that day. Luckily, the food shortage only lasted about a week, but the thought of not having access to food has never left my mind. Fast forward, a couple years later, I break up with the person who I had survived the pandemic with, and I spiral into my quarter-life crisis. I reflect back to that day in the grocery store, and I think, what do I want to do with my life? I need to learn how to grow food. So I start looking for any available farm jobs, and I come across this farmer in training program offered by a local nonprofit, which merges classroom learning and experiential farming experience to nurture the growth of new farmers. And there I was in an 800-acre fancy farm. It actually had a pool and a sauna, private hiking trails. And I was able to share a farmhouse with 3 other young aspiring farmers. We were in charge of a 13-acre vegetable farm, providing to our 60-person CSA, as well as delivering to our local farmers markets, as well as tending to our livestock, which consisted of a herd of Kingshire cows, sheep, and chicken. My crowning achievements were being able to seed and harvest a bed of arugula all on my own, and witnessing the miracle of life when I helped deliver a baby cow who I got to name Laurel. Now, our paradise quickly turned into a nightmare after we faced hardship after hardship. See, we were learning how to grow vegetables in the time of climate change. Our fields flooded in the spring, and during the summer, there was so many wildfires, we couldn't even spend time outside to harvest them. Our tomatoes suffered from bottom end rot, a calcium deficiency, and our vegetables kept being eaten by aphids and mealworms. It was so bad that we, the farmers, were actually relying on the food bank. So each week we would go to the food bank, promising the nice ladies there that we would eventually return the favor once we were able to grow food. Now, because we were a subsidized farm, we didn't really feel the true pressure of having to turn a profit. However, this reality was not lost on us because our very own instructors told us, you will never become a farmer. It is just that difficult. After my time at the farm, the program dissolved and I was faced with a decision. Do I use my new farming skills to be self-sufficient on my own, or do I return to the city? I chose to come back to Seattle because I believe it is here that I can have the most impact. You see, the question that I wanted to solve originally was, what happens when this food shortage happens again? What happens in a densely populated area? Where does Seattle source its sustenance? See, we have the power to generate demand for a localized food system, reduce the carbon footprint, and foster community connections. So now I choose to live by example. I eat locally, I champion for local farmers, I even started a garden at my local gym. Our time on this planet is short, and having experienced these challenges firsthand, I feel it is our responsibility to seek solutions because a crisis might happen for future generations that might not be as short-lived as the ones that we faced. Thank you. I'm also looking for any artichoke recipes because I think I'm ready to try artichokes again.
Well done. Well done. I'm gonna want those recipes too. I didn't know there were recipes for artichokes that were not dip. It's news to me. Thank you so much, Andres. Moving on to the next one. Navigating life's twists and turns can be quite a maze. For most of us, it's metaphorical. But for Kristen, it is quite literally so. She's gonna tell us all about it. Everyone, let's welcome Kristen!
It was the fall of 2021, and I had just been laid off of my job in marketing. I was thoroughly devastated. I was also seriously burnt out. So I decided to escape to the San Juans, to lick my wounds and ask the age-old question, what the fuck? Turns out the universe was giving me the opportunity to choose differently. So I took inventory, and one thing was abundantly clear. Alcohol wasn't doing me any favors. Now, I could do yet another dry January, or I could just dedicate myself to quitting for good. I chose the latter. 5 out of 5 stars would do again. Then I got this lofty idea that what I wanted to do was build a retreat/community center for musicians and artists. And I had this beautiful vision of a labyrinth set against old-growth trees. And so I enthusiastically called a friend of mine to share this vision. And do you know what she said? Kristen, you're a traveler. Why in the world are you going to tie yourself to one place when you could be building labyrinths around the world? Y'all, my mind got very quiet. My body got very still. And somehow I knew she was right. So fast forward 6 months, it's 9 a.m., 100 degrees. A massive sandstorm had just blown through Black Rock City. Now it's important to note I had been to Burning Man a few years beforehand, and I distinctly remember saying, why would anyone go to Burning Man sober? And yet here I was, in my first full year of sobriety, standing in the center of, you guessed it, a labyrinth. And I was doing what I had done every day for the past 5 mornings, and that was dust each and every of the 486 tiles of a labyrinth a small team and I had spent 3 days building in the dust. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds like an exercise in futility. And yes, ordinarily I would agree with you. But this labyrinth was different. This labyrinth was special. This labyrinth had provided purpose as I navigated months of unemployment and now a sober burn. This act, this ritual of dusting the tiles every day, sometimes twice a day, depending on the storm, had given me peace. And I was now clearing the path so that others might find their way. So, speaking of finding your way, it's important to note that mazes and labyrinths are not the same thing. Yeah, see, a lot of you got David Bowie in your head on that one. And I hate to break it to you, but that is not a labyrinth. Labyrinths have big hedges that obstruct your view. You've got to make decisions. There's dead ends. You're probably going to get lost. Let's be honest, you're going to get lost. That's kind of the point. Labyrinths, on the other hand, have no hedge to obstruct your view. There's traditionally one path in and one path out. And while it's true the meandering nature of a labyrinth might find you feeling lost, I can attest to this feeling, you can't actually get lost. That's the beauty of them. Trust the path. And so I have come to learn that labyrinths offer 3 things to folks, especially those in the middle of a big transition. 1, they provide certainty in uncertain times. 2, they connect us to ourselves, to nature, and each other. And 3, they provide a sacred and safe space to quiet our minds and open our hearts. Now, for those of you who might be wondering about building labyrinths around the world, I leave in May to build one in Sweden. Can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah! Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. That was beautiful. That was awesome. Labyrinths are really pretty. That was a really good talk. Some might say amazing. Hey, all right. That's a tough crowd. I'm gonna need some ice for that burn. So I'm gonna take a break, and so are you. It is time for the intermission. We're halfway through the talks. So everyone stand up, stretch your legs, get a drink, and I'll meet you back here in 25 minutes. doesn't look like it. Woo! Hello. Welcome back, everybody. I'll give you a moment to get back into your seats. Welcome back. How was you guys' break? Good. Very good. I hope you had a really good one. So, before we get started, I have a few things. Number one, I want to tell you, like, if you guys are anything like me, this is the point of the night where you're thinking, what kind of talk do I want to give? Right? You're thinking, you're like, yeah. And if you come up with anything interesting, you think there's something valuable or funny you want to share with us, we want to hear it. Submit a talk. It is super easy to do. In fact, one of our speakers did it like while he was on his seat in Ignite, like right exactly at this moment. So it is very easy to do. All you need is a title and a summary. What you don't need is any public speaking experience. We will help you. We give you one-on-one speaker coaching. So you should definitely come. It's a fantastic professional and personal opportunity. Bonus, we have a photographer who's taking really rad photos of us while we're on stage, and those photos look great on LinkedIn and on Tinder. Definitely want to use those. We also run public speaking workshops, free public speaking workshops. We have a professional speaker coach on staff. He usually charges a lot of money, but if you come to one of our events, you get his advice for free. Come to our events. However, space is limited, so sign up for updates here and also on Instagram. One last thing I want to share with y'all is during the intermission activity, we asked you to reflect on a question that keeps you up. And here are the top three. Number one, a lot of thoughts about the upcoming presidential election. Number two, people wondered about natural disasters, like what will happen to the I-5 if Mount Rainier blows up? Specifically, the I-5 is really interesting, guys, like my home. I-5. And finally, lots of people are curious about what's next. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's the second half of the show. Woo! Are you guys ready for the second half? There we go. There we have it. Energy's up. Fantastic, everyone. Our next speaker is an Ignite veteran. This is her third time on this Ignite stage. The first time she talked about getting free housing in the French chateau. The second time about driving the giant Oscar Mayer wiener truck, actual fact. And this time she's going to tell us about a unique way of being a foster parent. Everyone, let's give it up for Silvana!
Ever hear that little voice in your head that says, you have a really good life, you should be doing more. Volunteer, adopt a dog, pick up litter. My husband and I felt guilty that we had 2 empty bedrooms, and we became emergency foster parents. There are over 9,000 foster children in Washington. A caseworker would call and say, can you keep a baby for 2 nights? Now, if we were available, we would say sure, and the child comes to us. But here's the deal. If we were traveling or busy, we would say, sorry, we're not available. As emergency foster parents, you can accept children on your own schedule, so that works out pretty well. Now, often, caseworkers just need a place for the child for 1 night. And if a foster home isn't available, then the child goes to a sterile hotel room. If they came to your house, I think they would have a good time making some cookies, definitely. Now, true, to be a foster parent, you have to take some classes, you have a home inspection, but you decide what age group you want. We take birth through 12, so you could decide if you want a cute baby or a feisty teenager. We had a 4th grader stay with us one night, and his teacher emailed the next day and said, Sam was so happy he got to sleep in a clean bed. And I think some of you have an extra clean bed that you could give to a child in need, and you never know what they need. We had a boy arrive on his birthday, and he'd never had a birthday party. So we quickly threw together cake, ice cream, presents, you name it, and he was thrilled with his party. Birthday parties are fun, but you know, foster children will soon have your furniture thrown around and books ripped apart. They come with big emotions and big frustrations, but you deal with it like you would with any child. We calm them down and talk to them about what's happening. An advantage of having an emergency foster child, they don't stay long. So if they tell you that you make stupid pancakes, you can let it go off, because I really did try for this pancake. Just swimming can be fun. You don't need fancy toys. Just let them know that they can be a kid being a kid. And if you work, children can be picked up for school or for daycare. And then when you come home, you can put together a restaurant like this one that serves burritos, pizza, mashed potato, and corn. Very nutritious. And you can still go about your daily routine, that's the thing. This little girl loved dressing up and helping my husband grind his coffee beans. He ground way more beans than he needed because she loved pushing that little button. Each child is different. This boy told us, I like to take things apart. So we gave him a hairdryer and some tools, and he spent all afternoon. Of course, the hairdryer never worked again after that, but you know, that was just simply part of it. And by being emergency foster parents, it gives the caseworkers time to find children just the perfect long-term foster home. And in the meantime, you go for walks on sunny days with kids that like to hold umbrellas. It makes no sense. We had two boys who came where all they wanted to do was wear superhero suits and dig holes in our yard. I don't know why. But I was happy. They were outside, and we let them dig one hole after another after another. True confession, two sisters, we left them unsupervised for 3 minutes. The older one decided to face paint her younger sister with permanent markers. Yes. We've had over 50 foster children stay with us, and every year at Christmas, I like to look at this double-sided ornament and just look at all their names and think about their cute little faces as they came to us. And you know, those children won't remember our names, but hopefully they remember that we were kind, we took them to the beach, and hopefully we created some positive memories for them. And if some of you are interested in being an emergency foster parent, you can contact the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services. And there's also lots of private agencies that will help you with all the paperwork. Now, here's one thing you do not have to do if you are an emergency foster parent in any way, shape, or form. This girl came to our house and wanted to be a beautician. My husband said she needed practical experience, so he let her give him a haircut. Thank you.
Great job.
And Silvana's awesome, isn't she? Isn't she great? I get the feeling this is not the last time we're gonna see her on this stage. She's the sort of person who always has something interesting going on, so I'm gonna ask her at the after party what she's gonna work on next. She's so fun. All right, the next talk is called How I Saved My World. We're gonna take a little bit of a turn here. This talk is raw, it's real. It's gonna push your capacity for empathy. And so my ask for you all is, for the next 5 minutes, just take a pause, breathe, and really listen. Everyone, let's welcome Abraham.
I almost died trying to prevent the end of the universe. This story starts 18 months ago, and looking back now, everything I experienced is a bit of a blur. but I'll do my best to tell the story as I experienced it. Everything in my life was going extremely well. Time seemed to be stretching out in front of me. Have you ever experienced a day that felt so long it might as well have been a week? That was happening to me. Day after day was longer than the next. And I started to notice something else strange about time. I would look at clocks, and they'd be showing me the exact time I was thinking of in my head, which is weird, right? Like that doesn't usually happen. A few days later, I was out for a walk, and looking up at the sky, I noticed there wasn't a single cloud in sight. Not one. That doesn't happen. This is Seattle. Clouds are like our thing. I was thinking, time is acting strange. All the clouds are gone. And on top of that, everyone around me seemed really scared, like something terrible had happened. They all said they were just concerned about me, but I was fine. There was definitely something else going on. My perception of the past, present, and future all started to blur together. And like Obi-Wan Kenobi, who felt the death of Alderaan through the Force, I could feel that something truly terrible had happened to the fundamental substance of reality. This is a hard thing to explain standing here in a very real and solid world, but my perception of everything being real and existing was gone. I'm going to try to give you an example of this. I invite you all to close your eyes for just a moment. I'm sure you can sense the people sitting next to you, maybe the rest of the people in this room, and even if you can't see or hear anything outside of this building, you know that the rest of the city and, well, the whole world is there. It exists. You can open your eyes. My experience was the exact opposite of that. I knew everything was gone. I was in some type of backup universe. Like, the regular universe was destroyed, and I was in like a life raft backup universe. It wasn't as good. Time was acting strange. There were no clouds in the sky. And part of my mind was still questioning everything I was experiencing. And around a week ago, everything made a lot more sense. My troubles were simple ones. And in an attempt to break free of this backup reality that I felt trapped in, I took a glass from our kitchen cupboard. I threw it at the tile floor with all the pain and desperation that I felt in that moment. Unsurprisingly to me, that glass just bounced off the floor, right? Nothing was working right. But I took that as proof that, yes, everything was gone. Everything had broken. I was all alone. I was trapped in some universe that no longer made sense. A few hours later, some truly compassionate paramedics arrived that my family had called. They took me to the emergency room at Queen Anne Hospital, and I lay strapped to a gurney in a hallway, all alone, racked by an overwhelming sense of loss. Everything that I cared the most about in the world was gone. And laying in that bed, all I wanted was to get back to the world I could remember. A world full of happiness and laughter, beautiful living forests, and, well, clouds. What happened next is hard to remember and even more difficult to explain. But as I lay there in that bed, I started to believe that anything that could be unmade could be made whole again. I started to pour all of my willpower, all of my attention into the present and into that world that I could remember. And 2 incredibly long days later, I was transferred to the psychiatric ward at Fairfax Behavioral Health Hospital. And over the course of about a week, my perception of reality and the world slowly returned to what I remembered, to a familiar world. And I realized the world had not changed. Everything was still there. It was only me and my perspective that were different. And standing here today, I have so much compassion for everyone who struggles in their life, and a deep, deep appreciation for the simple things in life, like a beautiful sky full of clouds. Thank you all.
Really great. Really great. Good job.
Abraham, I don't know if you saw that, but you got a standing ovation. Thank you. Thanks for being really real with us, man. That was cool. Thank you. The next talk is called How to Make an Impossible Movie. If you're into filmmaking or the creative process in general, listen up, because Jeremy knows what he's talking about. Let's welcome Jeremy.
I'm not the best movie maker in the world, but I have made several movies. And when I say movies, I mean short films. My friends and I make them in short amounts of time, 48 hours. We're given a required random genre and some elements, and we have to come up with a story, write a script, film it, edit, produce sound and music, render the file, and submit it in 48 hours or less. It might sound impossible, and sometimes during the project it definitely feels impossible. I even cried one time, but luckily not many people saw it, so now I'm just telling all of you about it. Not everyone succeeds. Sometimes there's problems with casting or locations, or technical difficulties with your equipment, editing, or rendering. But I've done this 20 times. Thank you. In 2011, it was the first time as producer of a large team, and tonight I'm going to tell you how we did it. So there are a few things you can do in advance, like build a really good team, which is important, gather equipment, and scout your locations. I also like to create a draft schedule, say 2 hours for brainstorming, 4 hours for writing a script, 5 hours for sleeping, then wake up bright and early and set up at location, be ready to film. But after a couple of hours of brainstorming, we went a couple more hours. And after writing script for a few hours, I decided I'll just not sleep tonight. It'll be okay. Besides, my sleep deprivation is not so much a problem for me as it will be for everyone else. But the story is the most important thing. And the story, you may know, needs a beginning, a middle, and an end with an arc. And our assigned genre was horror, which I wanted to avoid. But we had a large cast, so I said, let's just kill a lot of people. And we came up with a story about a serial killer, and then we were ready to film. So the actors don't get a lot of time to rehearse, so usually the first few takes are the rehearsal. And the last take is always the best take, because once you get a good one, you move on. And, you know, everything fluctuates, and you have to roll with it, and always keep rolling until the director says cut. But we try to plan in advance, but have to be flexible. So, for example, if we need more time to film an important scene, I check the schedule to see if we could sacrifice time on a different scene and then make a judgment call. And we filmed for 20 hours, which was too long. Our sound artist was there standing with a boom mic most of that time, and at 4 a.m. when we wrapped, he had to take a quick nap and then go edit the sound. It's a laborious process of listening to all the recordings and cleaning up dialogue and adding sound effects throughout the movie, but sound is really important because an audience is forgiving of bad picture quality, but bad sound will take the audience out of the movie and distract from your picture and story. But we had a good team, so the sound artist, the music producer, and the editor all did a great job with the time we had left them. They really came through big time. So we did it. We came up with a story, wrote a script, filmed it, edited, rendered, was all that we had to do, and then turn it in. After that, we went to a screening at the SIF Uptown Cinema in Seattle. And we got to watch our film with all the films that the other teams had made that weekend. So there we were in the theater waiting for our film to appear on the big screen, and this is what we saw. No, I'm just kidding. Our film played. It was great. We listened to the audience laugh and clap, usually when we wanted them to. And we had a great time. We won awards for Best Cinematography, Best Directing, and Best Editing, and our film played later that year at the Bumper Shoot Festival. Thank you. And working on these projects were some of the best times of my life with my friends. And I hope tonight some of you heard this story tonight and you thought, that sounds like fun. I want to do it. Because I think you should. It's not impossible. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Oh, yeah. That talk is totally my jam. Remember how I said I love the process? When he showed that spreadsheet, I was like, oh, yeah, that's the stuff. Yeah, I love process. Is it obvious I'm a designer? I love this stuff. All right, so for our next talk, we're talking about so you live in a fault zone. Raise your hand if you've prepared for the big one. That was like 5 people. You have eaten artichokes, you've cooked artichokes, but you haven't prepared for the big one? Okay, all of you, I don't care if you have to go to the bathroom, you stay in your seat. Do not leave. This next talk is for you. Everyone, let's welcome Tianan. Sorry.
In 2016, I worked as the graphic designer for a mega church in the area. And one day after our weekly meeting, my boss turned to me with some concern on her face and she said, by the way, has anyone told you about the prophecy yet? And I said, what are you talking about? And she told me that a local woman had had a dream, confirmed by prayer to be prophetic, about the next huge earthquake, the big one, hitting in February of 2017. It didn't, but the church took the opportunity to get its staff and facilities prepared, and so I am here with you to share a couple of useful points for you to take home. You guys, you live in a fault zone. So, first things first, let's make a plan. Let's make a plan now, before we need it, instead of after, because the last thing you want after getting off of Mother Nature's own roller coaster is to solve puzzles. Like, for instance, do you know how to turn the gas off to your home in case of a fire? How about, I love that. How about, do you know if you live in a tsunami zone and what to do about it if you do? Here's one. Did you know that in cases of crisis, it's very common for local communications to go down? Everybody wants to use them. However, long-distance communications tend to stay open. That means that in the case of a shake, you are more likely to be able to text Dallas than Ballard. So, here's your homework for tonight. You're going to go home. You're going to find an out-of-state contact, somebody you trust. You're going to give everybody here their number, and they are now your emergency contact. If you can't get in touch with your people, you can text out-of-state guy, and he can text them, or she or they. And in this way, you can stay in touch, even if you're having a hard time getting through locally. And you can gossip. I mean, when's the last time you spoke? Next, let's talk about preparing your home. People get squirrely when we talk about disaster prep, which is fair. There is a contingent of enthusiastic participants online, giving it sort of a reputation. But I am here to let you know it is neither weird nor paranoid to prepare materially for a potential and even probable outcome. Anyone who drives with jumper cables will tell you that's just being responsible. So let's go over the broad strokes of how to build an earthquake kit. Number 1, clean food and water, stuff you can access without power. I'm talking things in bottles, cans. If you have a water filter, that's great. At least a couple of days, but ideally up to 2 weeks. Next, we want emergency supplies. First aid kits, the classic. Gloves and masks, flashlights, batteries, radios, anything that's gonna help in the immediate aftermath. Following up, meds, anything you're gonna need regularly, and I include the whole family down to pets in this. And finally, documents. IDs, passports, insurance information, anything that's gonna help you clean up afterwards. This all should be kept together in an easy to find, safe space because again, we don't want to be solving riddles after an earthquake. Now, you have your plan, you have your kit, the ground starts shaking. This is it. What do? Do you know? Do you remember? I'm sure we all remember the classic, which is get down and cover your head and hold on. But what happens if you are anywhere but next to a desk? People are most likely to be injured by falling objects in a quake. So this means keeping your head and neck safe is of the utmost importance. Get down immediately, avoid windows, they can break. Avoid anything on shelves or the shelves themselves if they're not anchored into the wall. If you can keep a cover, that's the table, that's great, do that. That includes staying in your car if you were driving while it happens. Other than that, the name of the game is to avoid being the tallest, most hittable object in the room, just in case things do start flying. And avoid doorways. They're not actually safer than the rest of the house, that's a myth, and they do have doors in them, which can swing. And how much would it suck on top of everything else to crush your hand? Don't do it. If you're like me and you grew up in the area, you probably remember that earthquake drills were pretty scant. You get under the table, follow a teacher to the parking lot, mom picks you up, you get McDonald's on the way home. That's not gonna work here probably, so take these resources. I only barely scratched the surface myself. Local authorities and local psychics agree. We're gonna have some earthquakes, so we should probably be ready. Thank you.
Sorry.
Phenomenal job, phenomenal.
Thank you, Tianan. All right, y'all have homework to do. Right. Next time I ask this question, the next Ignite, I want to see more hands raised. Y'all prepare for the big one. Our last talk of the night. It's rough, it's muddy, it's sweaty. Beth is the 40-year-old rugby virgin. Everyone, let's welcome Beth.
All right, let's be honest. Everybody's first time is a little awkward. Mine was out in the rain. I was staring straight on to a very intimidating woman, and just looking at her, I knew that she desperately wanted to wreck me. She really wanted to get into my tri-zone. Ew, gross, guys, I'm talking about rugby. God, get your mind out of the gutters. You know what, it's okay. Prior to 2022, I didn't know that much about rugby either. But I had just turned 40, and I was coming out of the pandemic. I was totally out of shape. I had just moved to a new town, had no social support network at all, and I knew I had to do something totally drastic to get myself out there. I had signed my son up for rugby because, frankly, it was one of the few things that was actually being offered at the time. But I remember watching him and his friends running around playing on the field and just thinking, wow, that looks like so much fun. One day at practice, the club had put up a poster saying that they were trying to recruit for their women's sevens rugby team. And I read the poster that said, "We accept all bodies and all levels." And I thought, I'm a body, I could do this. I was immediately thrown into something I knew nothing about. Turns out it's called a pitch, not a field. It's a try, not a touchdown. A scrum is that group of people that's pushing on each other standing up, while a ruck is a group of people that's pushing on each other with one person slammed into the ground. And there are all sorts of weird position names. Prop, wing, hooker. Turns out I make an excellent hooker, by the way. Oh, and don't pass the ball forward, whatever you do, backwards. But frankly, that was more than I knew before I was at my first game. And it wasn't one intimidating woman, it was 7. And right before the ref blew the whistle, I had this horrible feeling in my stomach. They all want to kill me. Which they almost did. We didn't win a single game. But, truth be told, I had so much fun. I walked back to the car muddy and exhausted and bruised and ready to go back for more. So every Tuesday and Thursday, there I was, boots on, ready to practice. And some days I felt totally on. I figured out that the trick to a proper tackle is to do the pelvic thrust from the time warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Other days, I felt totally off, but the team was there for me and supported me and just encouraged me, and the coach was so excited to have this new girl coming onto the field and with such gusto. And by being there and through, grubbers and rucks and scrums and lineouts, I started to feel so supported and nurtured and had this sense of belonging that, frankly, I hadn't felt since before the pandemic. And by literally leaning into these women and lifting them up in the air, I felt so supported and trusted, and I knew that I had to trust them too. And I started to get a little bit better. So, almost to the halftime, this other woman comes running at me with the ball, and without even thinking about it, I just give her a giant bear hug around the thighs and slowly bring her to the ground in a giant thud. And as I get up and I dust myself off, I hear my team captain pull her mouth guard out of her mouth and screams, "Beth, that was fucking incredible!" I still have a lot of pride over that move. Tackling people is awesome. Being tackled is not so awesome. Or the hamstring pulls, or frankly, a very mild concussion. And my team was totally there for me that day. They gave me water, ice packs, anything I needed. But I remember lying in my bed that night crying, not from the pain, but because I knew that my time with rugby was gonna have to come to an end. A friend of mine described it as dating a rock musician, totally fun and exciting, but maybe not the best long-term fit for a long-term relationship. So the day that I dropped off a scrum cap that I had borrowed from a teammate, as I left it on her front porch, I knew that my relationship with rugby was over. But the love had been real. And I felt so nourished and supported and got such strength and self-confidence from that group that I will carry with me forever. And it gave me the self-confidence that I need to take on my next big adventure. And I will always, always cherish my summer fling with rugby. Thank you so much. What a fantastic way to end the night. Hi. That was it, guys. That was our show. How'd you like it? Yeah? Awesome. Well, I hope then for you to see you guys again at our next show on October 3rd. You can buy tickets over here, and the first 150 people who sign up or to buy a ticket, you get reserved seating. Before I end the show, there are two sets of people I want to thank. The first one is the Ignite Seattle team. Volunteers, can you stand up, please? Stand up, stand up. These guys are amazing, super talented people. They're really cool, they're great to work with. And I want to give one more shout out to Nancy. Where is she? She's backstage. Oh, well, Nancy is awesome. She's one of our producers, and this is her last Ignite. She's leaving for New York. We're very sad. We're gonna miss her. Thanks, Nancy, wherever you are. If you are the kind of person who likes to get stuff done and you want to meet the coolest people in Seattle, come join the team. We would love to have you. And finally, the last people I want to thank, the most important, our stars. Can you guys come up? Get up, can back up on stage. Take a bow. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for coming.
I'll see you guys at the after party. You've been great. Have a good night.